I was forced to live with a stranger, and accidentally fell in love. This still feels so unreal to say out loud, even now, but I want to share my story with you. A few years ago, I lost my childhood home, not because I was careless or bad with money, but because I trusted the wrong person. A family friend, someone I'd known my whole life, manipulated me into signing documents I didn't understand. By the time I realized what had happened, the deed was transferred, and the house was sold. To a stranger. His name was Marcus. The day I found out, I drove straight to the house, my house, ready for a fight. I was going to scream, demand, do whatever it took to get my life back. But when the door opened, the man standing there wasn't a villain. He was just as confused as I was. He had bought the house legally, through what he thought was a legitimate sale. He had no idea about the fraud, the betrayal, or the girl whose entire world had just been pulled out from under her. When I showed up on his doorstep, demanding answers and probably looking a little unhinged, we both quickly realized neither of us was the bad guy. We were just two people caught in someone else's messy, selfish mistake. Of course, I immediately started legal proceedings. My lawyer was optimistic, but he warned me it would be a long, drawn-out process. The courts were backed up, and cases like this could take months, even years. In the meantime, I had nowhere to go. My savings were tied up in legal fees, and the thought of renting a tiny apartment while my home was occupied by someone else felt like a defeat I was ready to accept. So, my lawyer proposed a temporary, and frankly, insane solution, an interim cohabitation agreement. Until the court made a final ruling, Marcus and I would both live in the house. I would get my old bedroom, he would take the master, and we would share the common spaces. It sounded like the plot of a terrible romantic comedy, and I hated it, but I had no other choice. He agreed, surprisingly. I think he felt guilty, even though none of it was his fault. So began the most awkward and tense period of my life. For the first few weeks, we were like two ghosts haunting the same space, deliberately avoiding each other. Every shared hallway felt like a battlefield. He was distant and guarded, always had his headphones on, and retreated to his room the moment he got home from work. I was angry and loud. I'd slam cabinet doors, play my music a little too loud, and make passive-aggressive comments under my breath. The kitchen was a silent war zone. We'd negotiate shelf space in the fridge with the precision of military strategists. I'd find his perfectly organized condiments invading my designated vegetable drawer, and I'd retaliate by leaving a single rogue onion on his shelf. It was petty, it was childish, but it was the only way I knew how to cope with the sheer injustice of it all. I was a guest in my own home, and every corner held a memory he was now a part of. But you can only sustain that level of animosity for so long. Living with someone, even an unwilling roommate, forces a certain level of intimacy. Slowly, the silence started to break. It started with small, necessary interactions. The Wi-Fi is down. Did the mail come? You used the last of the coffee. Then, something strange happened. We started coexisting. The tension didn't disappear overnight, but it softened. It evolved from cold silence into a grudging truce. One evening, I was up late, hunched over my laptop, drowning in legal paperwork and trying to make sense of my shattered finances. I was exhausted and on the verge of tears. He walked into the kitchen, paused, and then without a word, he made 2 cups of tea. He set one down on the table next to me and went back to his room. He didn't say hang in there or it'll be okay. He just gave me a cup of tea. But it was everything. It was the first crack in the wall I had built around myself. It was the first time I saw him not as the man who had my house, but as a person who saw I was struggling. After that, the small gestures became more frequent. I learned that he worked late, so I started leaving the porch light on for him. He learned I was terrified of starting over from scratch, that the house represented the last connection to my parents. I found out he was an architect who craved quiet and solitude, and the whole situation was just as stressful for him. He hated the attention, the legal battle, the feeling of displacing someone. He just wanted a quiet place to read and sketch. We started talking, not about the court case, but about everything else. About our favorite books, our worst jobs, our dreams for the future. We discovered a shared love for old black and white movies and a mutual hatred for the house, once a source of conflict, slowly started to feel like a home again. A different kind of home. Our home. We never meant to cross any boundaries. It just happened, in the smallest, most mundane ways. One night, we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking on the living room floor, sharing a pint of ice cream. Another time, he helped me fix the leaky faucet in the bathroom, the same one my dad could never quite get right. We fell into a rhythm, a comfortable domesticity that felt both wonderful and terrifying. I would cook, he would do the dishes. We'd watch movies on the couch, not too close, but close enough that I could feel the warmth from his arm. I started to dread the day the court would make a decision. The thing I wanted most in the world, my house back, was now tangled up with the thing I was most afraid of losing, him. The call from my lawyer came on a Tuesday morning. We won. The house was officially, unequivocally mine. The fraudulent transfer was voided. Justice had been served. I should have been ecstatic. I should have been popping champagne, calling all my friends, celebrating the end of this long nightmare. And a part of me was relieved, of course. But as I hung up the phone, a profound sense of loss washed over me. I looked around the living room, at the life we had accidentally built together within those walls. Marcus was in his room. I walked to his door and knocked softly. He already knew. He'd been expecting it. When he opened the door, his face was calm, resolute. He said, "Congratulations. I'm really happy for you," and I knew he meant it. There was no bitterness, no resentment. He just started packing his bags without complaint. Watching him fold his clothes and put his books into boxes felt like a physical blow. Each item he packed was a piece of our shared life being dismantled. The house was mine again, but it was about to feel emptier than ever. That's when I realized it. The house wasn't the thing I was afraid of losing anymore. It was him. As he carried the last box to his car, I stood on the porch, the same porch where I'd first screamed at him. My heart was hammering in my chest. I couldn't let him just drive away. I couldn't let this be the end. So I did the only thing I could think of. I asked him to stay. Not forever. Not with any grand promises. I just said, "You don't have to go." He stopped, turned around, and looked at me. For the first time, I saw the same vulnerability in his eyes that I felt in my own heart. We didn't promise a fairy tale ending. We didn't promise forever. We just chose honesty. We chose to see what this fragile, unexpected thing between us could become, without the pressure of a court case hanging over our heads. And somehow, in a world full of contracts and legal documents, that simple, honest choice was enough. It was more than enough. Thanks for listening to my story. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most beautiful things in life grow from the most difficult circumstances. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe for more stories.